Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, the new commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Air Vice Marshal Suleiman Dambo, says the college will review its academic and training curriculum to meet the demands of the current Boko Haram insurgency. The Chief of Army Air Staff, Vice Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, warns Boko Haram insurgents to surrender or face the full force of the nation's military capability. Hannah Awolowo, the wife of one of Nigeria's most respected politicians, Obafemi Awolowo, dies at the age of 99. And Austria says that it expects at least 100,000 migrants to arrive amidst bitter row amongst EU nations.
On Business News tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria intervenes to ease days of foreign exchange slowdown at the interbank market.
And in sports, Super Eagles striker Johnny Gallo scores twice against Newcastle to make it 4 goals in 6 games in the English Premier League.
We start off tonight from Nigeria's military command, where the new commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Air Vice Marshal Suleiman Dambo, says that the college would review its academic and training curriculum to meet the demands of the current Boko Haram insurgency challenge to boost the war against terror in the country. The commandant disclosed this shortly after taking over from the predecessor, Air Vice Marshal John Ifemije, who just retired from service. He adds that the inclusion of counter-terrorism training for officers and men would pass through the college has been contributed immensely to the successes recorded by the troops fighting the Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria's northeast.
It is my hope that the lessons learned from this counter-insurgency will make us to have a review of our threat analysis, which will subsequently lead us to review of our doctrine, so that we here at this Command and Staff College will also take a review of the curriculum, so that it will be in concert with the realities of the security challenges that we face now in the country. It is my wish also that we will find a way of re-establishing the tri-service program, especially in the junior course. In the senior course as well, there is need for us to also find a way of by-service jointness. As we can see, the fight against insurgency is predominantly being fought between the Army and the Nigerian Air Force. I am in maritime domain, where the Air Force and the Navy will be playing a role. Nobody prays, it's a fact, nobody prays for any skirmishes or any war in his country. But when you can see the handwriting on the wall, it will be nonsensical for you to pretend to say that there is no brewing problem that you have foreseen and then make you to start preparing for it. In peace, we prepare for war, and in war, we prepare for peace.
In the meantime, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has sounded a warning to the Boko Haram insurgents to surrender or face the full force of the nation's military capability. He gave the warning at the end of the 2015 annual 10-kilometer walk and jog exercise organized by the admin branch of the Nigeria Air Force in Abuja. He adds that the Nigerian Air Force is working closely with all the forces to achieve the deadline to end insurgency in the northeast, as directed by the President. The military says that it has rescued 90 people, including women and children, after it dislodged Boko Haram members from 2 villages in the country's restive northeast. Acting Army spokesman Sani Usman said in a statement that troops rescued 23 men, 33 women and 34 children from the terrorists in villages of Dissa and Balazala, which lies in the vicinity of the town of Goza in Borno State. Goza was where Boko Haram declared its so-called caliphate last year, before the strategic town was recaptured by government forces. The military adds that it has reopened a primary school in the township, which has been shut because of the frequent attacks by insurgents, and pledged to implement security measures to ensure the safety of pupils and teachers. Well, since the war began in the northeastern part of Nigeria, children and women have been the most affected. And this is coming from the United Nations Agency for Children, UNICEF. The agency's monitoring and evaluation officer, Mrs. Soji Adeni, says that 40 to 60% of these displaced persons are children.
In 2009, Boko Haram terrorists launched a fledged armed rebellion against the government of Nigeria in the northeastern region of the country. Since then, the group's murderous activities have continued to intensify, affecting the environment, health, education, social life and well-being of the people. The National Emergency Management Agency puts the number of internally displaced persons at the end of July 2015 at 2.1 million.
If your community is being taken over by the insurgents, you may not be able to likely leave that location. You are trapped in between them. Those were like the faceless displaced persons who we couldn't reach to count out of fear or trauma are moving away from those locations where they were to areas where they are more visible. So you discover that that is slightly responsible for the increase in the number of now known displaced persons.
The agency says most of these displaced people are in Borno, Yobe and Adamawa states. Of this number, children are mostly affected. According to the UN Children Agency, UNICEF, in northern Nigeria alone, nearly 1.2 million children, over half of them under 5 years old, have been forced to flee their homes. An additional 265,000 children have been uprooted in Cameroon, Chad and Niger.
The numbers are changing. We normally take periodic census so as to know, what's going on. It's a dynamic thing. As soon as the village is attacked, people move. As soon as things get a little better, people also move out. So it's not so fixed. But generally, usually it's between 60 to 70% of the population that are usually women and children. And if you break that down, you'll be talking of about 40% of that population being children and youths. The only problem that they have is that, psychologically the mothers are not balanced. So you need to give them psychosocial support to encourage them to breastfeed, because they don't have anything to give the children anyway.
Some experts also insist that the children in various IDP camps need more than shelter for their survival.
What is the exact plan for rehabilitating such people? What needs to be done for the children? What needs to be done for those who are elderly? What needs to be done for those who have lost their livelihoods, have lost a limb? Those things, physically challenged, all of those things, we need to break it down. I'm looking forward to hearing from the managers of the Victim Support Fund, I think it's the Foundation for Victim Support Fund, their concrete plans. I know for example, they're signing MOUs with some of the hospitals to provide healthcare for the displaced. I know that they've been providing relief materials, which is good, but we now need to go and look at a longer-term plan and a rehabilitation plan.
UNICEF has also scaled up its operations and vaccinated over 315,000 children against measles and other childhood killer diseases.
Still ahead on the news at 10, we'll focus on the displaced children in Nigeria's IDPs and also children's displaced outside of Nigeria. That's coming up in a moment. We'll be speaking to the Executive Director, Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Lola Alonge. Join us again.